Hey guys, what's up? I'm Erin and welcome back to the channel. Would you give up $42 a month to save Social Security? This isn't just a hypothetical. A recent bipartisan survey revealed something rare: overwhelming agreement across political lines on this subject, and it might not be what you expect. We're officially inside the 10-year window before Social Security's main trust fund runs dry. Congress knows it, you know it, and while lawmakers delay, everyday Americans just mapped out a potential real solution. So today we're breaking down what the 82% of surveyed Americans support, what's stopping Congress, and why this $42 decision could reshape retirement in America. This wasn't just another opinion poll. It came from four heavyweights: the National Academy of Social Insurance, AARP, National Institute on Retirement Security, and the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. They surveyed over 2,200 Americans from every political, age, income, and education group. But instead of simply asking yes or no question, they used trade-off analysis, and this is pretty common in marketing research. The respondents chose between real policy packages, knowing the costs and knowing the trade-offs, no sugarcoating, and here was the result. 82% of Americans preferred a package that increases revenues, pays for targeted benefit improvements, and eliminates the financing gap. In plain terms, Americans were willing to pay a little bit more for the guarantee that Social Security would be there. It's not about politics, it's about values, and knowing that Social Security is a safety net within our society. Again, this wasn't a simple yes or no poll. Participants were shown 27 real policy options across 9 categories, things like tax changes, benefit formulas, and retirement age tweaks. Some raised revenues, some cut costs, others modernized the system. Among the options available, here are the ones that had the most strong support. Taxing income over $400,000 with no extra benefit for high earners. This is known as the donut hole approach, where they would continue taxing Social Security up to the current cap, and then there would be a gap of income where they did not tax it until reaching an income of $400,000, and then again, the taxation on Social Security would resume. The next item that received the strongest support was to increase Social Security tax by 1 percentage point for both the employee and the employer. So instead of 6.2% each, it would now be 7.2% each. There was also strong support to give caregiver credits to parents who stepped out of the workforce when their children were young, or to add bridge benefits for people in physically demanding jobs so they could retire earlier. Also, there was strong support to improve the cost of living adjustments to better reflect what retirees truly spend their money on. On the flip side, here are some ideas that were widely rejected. Raising the full retirement age from 67 to 69, using a slower inflation formula, and across the board a $250 per month benefit increase. People just preferred targeted help. Here's one thing that really stood out. By far, respondents' greatest aversion is to any reform package that does not change the payroll tax cap. If there was no cap reform, people didn't just dislike the package, they outright rejected it. Out of 27 options, one package stood out, earning support from 82% of surveyed Americans, going across party lines, across age groups, and across income levels. Here's what that package brought to the table. Reapply payroll taxes for incomes above $400,000, keeping the current cap around $176,000. This raises revenues without unduly impacting middle-income earners, gradually increasing the payroll tax from 6.2% to 7.2% for both employees and employers. This is a modest increase that does impact the middle class, but it is seen as a shared responsibility according to the survey participants, keeping the full retirement age where it currently is at 67. Overwhelmingly, survey respondents were against increasing the full retirement age in any way, updating cost of living calculations to better reflect senior spending. One of the current arguments is that how Social Security increases are determined is based on the spending habits of workers rather than retirees. So they are for promoting a new system that focuses truly on what retirees spend on, and this would include a greater emphasis on housing costs and healthcare costs. Giving caregiver credits to parents of young children. When a parent steps away from the workforce to care for young children, they often have gaps in their employment records, and this can lead to lower Social Security benefits. So there is a proposal to somehow add back credits during this time. Add a bridge benefit for people in physically demanding jobs. This might allow them to retire at an earlier age, say 62 or 63, and still fully capture the retirement benefits they would be eligible for at full retirement age. No across-the-board benefit increases. This is really keeping the program financially focused. No changes to how benefits are currently taxed. Taxing Social Security benefits themselves has long been seen as controversial, so this was not something people wanted to touch. Modestly reduced benefits for high-income retirees only. In the survey, what counted as a high-income retiree was a single individual who had retirement income, not including Social Security, of $60,000 or more, or a married couple who had retirement income, again, not factoring in Social Security, of $120,000 or more. So this was really a way to introduce light means testing and reduce benefits for those who may already be in a stable financial position. This means test would include income from work, pensions, investments, or retirement account, not Social Security itself. And in the survey, it was seen as a fair trade-off, targeted, not punitive. So what would this package, if built, accomplish? It would eliminate the projected funding shortfall, it would create a small surplus, and it would avoid broad benefit cuts. And support for this package wasn't just strong, it was unusually bipartisan. There is a striking bipartisan consensus on the preferred policy package. Among Democrats, Republicans, and independents, the proposal is broadly supported. Support was also strong across income levels, including households earning above and below $100,000. Support was consistently high across age groups, including younger and older Americans. And why is that? Because the vast majority of Americans don't see Social Security as a handout, but rather they see it as a promise worth keeping. Now, I want to take a minute and step out of the video, because while I think it's wonderful that this survey shows us that 82% of Americans on all political sides, regardless of age, regardless of income, agreed on this one package, I do think that might be indicative of a small sample set, because I think if this package was brought forth to a broader group of Americans, I think we might see that percentage start to come down. What are your thoughts? Leave them in a comment. I'm very curious, but that's my opinion on it. Let's take a moment to talk about two of the most popular fixes and add in one other popular suggestion not mentioned here, and answer the question, would any of these fixes alone save Social Security long term? Apply payroll taxes to income over $400,000. This was the top pick in our survey, receiving overwhelming support. And this idea has been floated by a number of institutions. In fact, the Social Security Administration themselves have said putting just a 1% tax on those making $400,000 or more could solve 36% of our funding issues. So it's not a complete fix, but it would help. Raise the payroll tax rate from 6.2% to 7.2%. Now this one packs a powerful punch. You're essentially raising the tax by 2%, 1% to the employee and 1% to the employer. And in independent models, it's suggested that this alone would be enough to close the gap. However, I feel like this one might get a lot of pushback if brought to the public. Alternatively, there's often talk about eliminating the tax cap altogether. Everyone pays Social Security tax on all earnings, no cap limit whatsoever. Some models suggest that this would effectively keep the Social Security trust fund stable until 2080, so it does get us some time. There's not 100% certainty that it indefinitely closes the gap, but it does move the needle. The bottom line is the real solution, once one is fully brought forward, will probably be a combined effort, one that touches on the tax gap, the tax rate, and the benefit formula themselves, but until that happens, only time will tell. Now let's talk numbers, because that 1% payroll tax increase, it's not just abstract policy, it's real dollars, and it's one that would very much affect middle America. Let's take a look. If you earned $50,000 a year, you'd pay an extra $42 per month. If you earn $100,000 per year, your increase would be about $83 a month. Now keep in mind, employers match every single dollar of payroll tax, so this wouldn't just increase the expense for employees, it would also increase the expense for employers. And surprisingly and overwhelmingly, this is one of the most strongly supported line items in that survey. Now anytime we talk about this, someone always comments, but what if I just invested that money myself? Fair question, so let's do the math. If you invested $42 a month for 35 years, captured an 8% rate of return, you'd end up with about $96,000. If you did that with $83 a month, that would be about $190,000. Keep in mind, the employer is also going to be matching the same amount, so if you want to include what the employer would have done, you could essentially double these amounts. But here is a good talking point. Social Security isn't an investment account. It's insurance. It is to protect you and millions of others, not just in retirement, but if you were to become disabled, if you were to outlive your savings, if your spouse or your children needed survivor benefits after your passing. You can't outlive it, it's inflation protected, and it supports more than just retirees. It's not perfect, it's not a 401k plan, but it's not supposed to be. It's a social insurance program, and there is a key difference. Social Security is one of the most dependable things we have. You knew the first time that you got the Social Security check that it would come again the same time. Right now, I know the second day of every month, it is there. That right there, that's not sarcastic. That is someone's life. That is groceries and rent and peace of mind after a lifetime of work. According to the same survey, 36% of Americans say that without Social Security, they wouldn't be able to afford basic necessities, food, clothing, or housing. So no, Social Security isn't just a line item in the federal budget. For millions of Americans, it is a true lifeline that they rely on. So why hasn't Congress done anything? Let's take a moment and be a little bit blunt. Guess how many members of Congress have put Social Security reform on the top of their priority list? Exactly 0. Why is that? Because the people who have the power to make a change don't want the responsibility. They don't want the accountability. Essentially, they're saying, let's let that be some other congressman's problem in 10 years' time. That's not just delay, it's deliberate avoidance, a failure to act on something Americans overwhelmingly support. This shouldn't be about politics. It should be about values. It should be about protecting something that we've all paid into and that millions of Americans rely on. So I want to hear from you. Do you think Congress will act before the 11th hour? I don't. I think they're going to wait until that very last second. And if you had the power to change Social Security, what would you do? What changes would you think would move the needle the most? Share your thoughts in a comment down below. I post new videos every single week. If you got anything at all out of this one, please give it a like. If you're new here, please consider subscribing. Or if you know of someone who might get something out of this type of content, please consider sharing. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.